50 episodes and one message keeps coming up time and time again. Self-awareness. So you'll notice if you've been tracking all these 50 episodes, if you've been tuning in, that nearly everything I talk about comes back to awareness. It's why you should journal. It's why we want to have the prompts. It's why we want to do Qigong. It's why we want to do Kung Fu. It's why we want to do meditation, focus drills. All about your self-awareness, because the more self-awareness you have, the easier it is then for you to switch back to positive habits. So if you go back through the 50 episodes, this would make a really, I think it'll make a really good book. There's so many, I'm not going to write another book. That was a nightmare. Even though it's a great book and you should all buy it, Limitations and Mirage, get it on Amazon. I'll reach out to me and I'll send you the audio book because I have it in one long audio. The podcast, the reason I started the podcast was I'd moved away from the Breathwork guy, but I still was being asked questions about my philosophies and the way I live my life and the thinkings that I have. So I thought it would just be easier to do a podcast because I enjoy talking to camera, I enjoy podcasts, and I like the messages and the interactions with people that I receive. Not saying that I get a lot, but when I do, I really like them. Some have been in person and some have been via messages. So if you've any feedback or anything you want to say, congratulate me for 50. Technically this is 54 though, because I already recorded 4 episodes over the 50 episodes and deleted them without editing them, so I had to reshoot them, which is very annoying, but it happens. The universe wanted it to happen because whatever I was going to say the second time around was going to be better than what I said the first time around. And that's how I get through it. Anywho, the self-awareness. When you have self-awareness, you can come back, you can reset quicker. So we talked about this in the last episode. It's not about the streak, it's about your recovery time as well. So all of the episodes are teaching you, I have 5 pillars: presence, discipline, truth, courage, direction. And if you actually go through, you'll notice that nearly every episode has one or more of these pillars within it. So the presence is your self-awareness, your meditation, your Qigong, you're just all the questions you're asking yourself, all the wee prompts. That's why the prompt and journal appeared, because people told me that they struggle with asking themselves the big questions, so I just made a journal. It's much easier. So discipline, again, it's in everything, like the streak. It's in the taking action. It's in building your self-awareness through discipline, like going to the gym, drinking your water, getting your steps in, meditating daily. All of those things are connected to your discipline. Truth, all the questions you're asking yourself. This is how you develop real self-awareness, is by being truthful to yourself. You can't be self-aware and lie. Oh, I stayed in that relationship because of, and you start making up reasons, or I stayed in that job because you start making up reasons, or I missed the gym because, and you start making up reasons. Being truthful to yourself, open and honest with yourself, not only gives you more self-awareness, but it makes it easier for you to be open, honest, and truthful with the people around you. And it's important to remember there's a difference between being truthful and being rude. Like, some people will justify saying fucking ridiculous stuff or asking crazy questions because they're just honest. But just because you're honest doesn't mean you have to ask the hard question or the awkward question, or if you don't need to, if it's not important. Think about what's the benefit of the answer you're getting. So remember, the truth is truth in yourself, and then being truthful with the world around you. Courage. It takes a lot of courage to be truthful to yourself, to actually ask yourself, why have you been seven? Why have you been single for 7 years is a question I could ask myself. I could say, oh, because I'm fucking cool and I've been working on my business. Which, if people ask me and that was the answer I gave them, they'd be like, that makes sense. But there's probably more depth there if you actually look into it, which we'll go into on a different episode, or never, and everyone will forget about it. Either way, having the courage to be open and honest about your situations, be open and honest about your reactions, be open and honest about the way you have dealt with people, dealt with relationships, dealt with jobs, dealt with yourself in the past, takes courage. And then direction. None of this matters if you've no direction. So if you don't know where you're going in life, you can have all the self-awareness, all the discipline in the world, but If you go to the gym and you have no goal, no end goal, then you're not really going to get anywhere. You're just going to mill about. The example I used to use with direction was if I stuck you in a field with a map and I said to you, right, here's your map, here's exactly where you are, here's a compass, here's your phone with sat nav on it, I want you to get home. You'd look at the map, you look at your phone, you'd be like, no bother, and you go home. You wouldn't even need the map because you have your GPS on your phone. You just do it that way. But if I set you in a field, you didn't know where you were, you'd been blindfolded, thrown in the back of a van, ended up in a field, and I'm like, right, get home. You wouldn't have a clue what direction even to go in. You'd have to start relying on the stars and the sun and the moon and old school stuff that nobody knows anymore to try to get home. So having direction, knowing where you are, where you're trying to get to, that is really important. So this is why these are the pillars, the 5 pillars that I think are important. Presence, discipline, truth, courage, direction. I'm reading them because that's the order I want them in today. I don't want to fuck it up. So one key lesson from each of the podcasts will be involved in these 5 pillars. So if you go back and listen to any episode and you think of these pillars, you'll go, oh, I see what he's going with this. Some of them will have more than one, but some of them will just have one. So the idea of the podcast started because I wanted to make like a live, it's almost like a course, but it feels more live. So instead of you just buying a course and then doing bits and pieces of the course, if you just watch this and you do all of the tasks every week, like there's 2 tasks a week. We've done 50 episodes, 25 weeks. You'd have done 25 weeks of actual self-development, actual self-improvement. So you would create self-transformation. You're not just doing self-help or shelf-help or ear help because it's a podcast. If you've been doing the tasks, you're doing an actual useful thing twice a week to help you elevate and help you transform. So that's why this podcast exists. That's why I'll continue to do it. If there's anything you'd like me to touch on, then please reach out to me and let me know. So the task for this week, I suppose you could have 2 tasks. One, go back and listen to every episode and review the podcast and tell me it's amazing. Don't review it if you think it's shit. Just delete, just move on. But if you think it's awesome, hit a wee review there. So check your path. This is the action for today. This week, or for the week, choose your strongest pillar and your weakest pillar. So the pillars are presence, discipline, truth, courage, direction. What's your strongest one? What is your weakest one? And then do something to reinforce the strongest one and do something to elevate the weakest. So you want to bring all the pillars up so they're standing as tall as each other. You don't want to just work on the weak one because then eventually the stronger ones will stay and the weak ones will rise and you'll have got nowhere. You work on both so the strong one rises, but the weak one then has to move faster to catch up. And the stronger you get in other pillars, they compound into each other. So they will elevate them anyway, but focusing on one will elevate it faster. So that's your action for this week. Feel free to let me know which pillar you think is your strongest, which is your weakest, and if you need any help in developing these pillars. Again, they don't have to be your pillars, but it's just very useful to have pillars or something that you can look at whenever you're making a decision about your life and you can go, well, does this fit the boundaries that I have, the standards that I have, the pillars I live by? Like, what is this connected to? And if it elevates you, brilliant. If it doesn't, then rethink it. So let me know how you get on with that. Have a super awesome day, whatever you get up to, and I'll speak to you again soon.